Good morning.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for joining. I'm Pelayo from Unitar.
Nice to
Let
meet
me change my name.
you. So one of our panelists has already joined. Hi, Kofi. Hello, Kofi. Can you hear us? I'm not sure if you can hear us. Hi, Kofi. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing?
Doing well,
Doing
thanks.
great. How are you doing?
Nice meeting you.
Hi, I'm Radhika.
Nice meeting you. I'm Pelayo Alvarez from Unitar.
Okay. I'll do two things. I want to shut my window and turn on the AC so that
Hi, Harry.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Good morning, Harry.
Session 5. Now we're masters at this. The first two sessions we were nervous, but
God, you guys have been doing a terrific job, and like it's going non-stop. I don't know if you're
yes,
sleeping at night or no.
just one thing after another. But it's not too bad. We had some great sessions as well. Lots of
Definitely.
good questions. Lots of good interactions. It's been worth it.
Nice. I joined some sessions day before yesterday, the first one, I think.
I really liked Professor Raymer's speech on the impact of the pandemic on education. That was fascinating.
Yes.
So,
Okay, hi everybody.
hello.
Hi.
Kofi is my name. First thing,
Nice to meet you.
yes, nice meeting you too. I have done some a few modifications to my slides. So,
But that's okay, Kofi, because you will be presenting yourself, so
yeah,
you can
okay.
screen share.
And does everyone want to practice sharing your screens? I should have
Actually,
just,
yeah.
there we are. And we'll make you a co-host.
I want to just to make sure that the video is, I can see the video there. Just 1 second.
Yes, videos can be a little bit tricky on Zoom.
Okay, great. I just need to expand the screen.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, great. I think this works well. We can hear, everyone can hear the sound, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice background he had.
I know. And the video looks really good. And then my PowerPoint, which should be on, which is this.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's if you can keep that. Is this the first PowerPoint you'll use?
Yes, this is the starting. So we'll
Yeah,
keep.
so you can keep that up for when we begin. And I don't know if Pelayo told you, but at 9 o'clock we'll hit broadcast. That'll bring in all the attendees, and then there'll be like a 30-second gap between when we start broadcasting to when it goes to YouTube. So when it gets onto YouTube, I'll put it on our live streaming site. So for 30 seconds, we'll sort of just kill time, and then I'll let you know you can get started.
Sure. Great. So I can see MEP Catherine Shibu has joined. Hi. Thanks for joining, Commissioner Shibu.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your welcome, and hello to everybody. Do you hear me then?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Aurelio has joined as well.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hi, nice to be here.
Andreas. Hi, Andreas. Hi, Andreas. Can you hear us, Andreas? Okay, he's putting on his. Hi, Andreas. Can you hear us?
Hi Radhika. Hi everyone.
Great.
Good
You
morning. Good afternoon.
This is not fair. You have such a nice background and it's tempting. It's very tempting with the beach there.
Oh yeah, because many things under my background, so it's not look nice for this kind of meeting.
Thanks for joining.
Okay. Can also try to see if I can share my slide.
Okay, so maybe I will stop and then maybe you can share.
Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. I can minimize.
Yeah. Okay, maybe you can, once you are presenting, you can make the screen go bigger so that we can only see the screen. Otherwise, we can also see your other slides.
Yes,
Okay.
I will do that.
Also something to note is that when you're on PowerPoint, I don't know if anyone does this, but make sure it's just a full screen.
Full screen now.
Yeah, that's perfect. But make sure no one uses there's presenter mode where you see like one screen and then the next screen. Don't do that because the way the screen sharing works, we just see exactly what you're seeing. So we would just see the presenter mode as well. So this is perfect.
All right. So I can go out now.
Yeah, that's perfect.
If we have few minutes, could we perhaps try the video that is supposed to be displayed during the session?
Yes, I just tried it, Orion. It's working good. I just tried it. Yeah. Maybe let's see one more time.
Okay, sorry if you already did that.
We can just try it one more time. Also paranoid about the
Excellencies,
video.
ladies and gentlemen,
It's good.
the 2030
Great.
agenda.
Great. I was a bit surprised to see the commissioner. He looks so young. I was expecting like an older gentleman with all that experience, and he's so young and dynamic. Yes.
Now it's younger generation, Radhika.
Yes. Yes. Benoit, hi, Benoit.
Hi,
Could you
Radhika. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Could you stop screen sharing so we can see everyone, just to make sure everyone's joined the chat who we've expected to?
We have more people to join.
We've got 10 people at the moment, yeah. Ourselves included, of course. But.
We need one more person from Indonesia, Mr. Eddie. He should join. And we are expecting Professor Sachs. I have sent him the link.
Is our colleague from Japan joining us?
I sent him the link as well, John Hayakawa, so he should be joining soon. Hi.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I believe we've mislabeled
I know, yeah.
who we've just joined.
So Pierre Bauer is there.
Ah oui,
We have two Pierres.
My name is Cécile.
Let me go in and fix that for you.
I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. My fault.
I am Pierre. Hello, everyone.
Morning.
Hi, Pierre.
I use the link you provided me.
Not a problem. Let me just.
We have around 5 more minutes before we go live on YouTube and we enter all the participants into the webinar.
There we go. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you so much, Harris.
Not at all.
Thank you very much. But I will disappear anyway afterwards. Vika, you are ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm a bit nervous, but yes.
Yeah, it was a lot of preparation, huh?
Yeah, lot of preparation, but it's very, very exciting to be with them. And then finally, we'll get to hear everyone. It's great.
Do you know the audience by now? Because it was increasing days after days.
I know the last I heard was like 2,200 or something, but I don't think Mrs. Harris will have probably more numbers.
And sometimes that obviously isn't reflected in the participants in the group because a lot of people choose to watch it on YouTube since we'll be broadcasting live there as well. But for example, the first session, I think the recording has already had nearly 3,000 people watch it. So, you know, we'll have a lot of people join us hopefully in a few minutes, and we'll have a lot of people watch this over the course of the next few days.
We'll just send an email to Eddie to see if he has any issues joining. Mr. Awakawa, can you hear? Great.
Yes, ready, go. Thank you. I can hear you.
I know it must be very late for you there. Great. Hello, Eddie. Thanks for joining. Can you hear us?
Hello, Radhika.
Thanks for joining so much.
Yeah, nice. You all back.
All right, so we're a minute out. Do we have everyone we're expecting?
We have one person missing, Aki, our opening remarks person, Professor Sachs, but he will join soon, so maybe we should.
Yeah, we can wait. It's all right.
Sent him a text. He should be here soon.
What we can do is if you put up that welcome screen, we can just start broadcasting and hold on until he arrives. Pelayo, why don't we start broadcasting? And
yes,
we can have a
we
quick
wait
announcement
for the
saying
opener or not?
I think just to put up the screen, since people should be joining now.
Great.
And then if you'd like to make a quick announcement saying that we'll start in a few minutes.
Good morning, participants. We'll be starting very soon. I see everybody joining the webinar. We're gonna wait a couple minutes to go live into YouTube.
So we now have over 200 participants and climbing.
Jeff just joined. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
I'm going live on YouTube. Please just give us 20 seconds. And we are live in YouTube. Please feel free to launch your event.
Enjoy your session.
Thanks. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our session on Global Environmental Commons, co-designing solutions to integrate SDGs into policies and practice through education and capacity development. This session is jointly hosted by the Government of Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, Sulitest, and the Center for Sustainable Development at Columbia University Earth Institute. I am the moderator of the session. This is Radhika Iyengar from the Center for Sustainable Development Earth Institute, Columbia University. We have been told that we have over 2,500 attendees. Please feel free to use the Q&A box to type up your questions. We will do our best to answer some of them. And I would request the panelists to please keep to your time, 10 minutes maximum, so that we can cover the entire session on time. So we are just moving on to the next slide here. We have some guiding questions for the session. This is based on a concept note, which is up on the HLPF session 5 website. And it's basically focusing on the interlinkages of the SDGs and making sure that the policymakers are prioritizing these interlinkages and making SDGs their top priority. So how our panel should be able to address these issues as to how we can make the policymakers really focus on the SDGs and make them their top priority. We have a great lineup of esteemed panelists today. I'm very honored to be moderating this session. This is our structure. We will stick to our time and so we'll just go over to Professor Jeffrey Sachs at Columbia University. Jeff Sachs needs no introduction. He's a world-renowned economist and has been working as advising for MTGs as well as for the SDGs with the UN Secretary General. Thank you, Jeff, for joining. I know it's a very important time for everyone, so thanks for joining. Over to you for your opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Radhika, and thanks to the government of Japan and to all of the hosts for this important session. I'm very happy that this is about solutions, about co-designing solutions. We've got a lot of problems. We need to find answers to them. And I have found in my own experience and institutional experience at universities and as director of the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, that the key to finding solutions is to keep your eye on the target. In other words, solutions don't come through traditional silos or traditional disciplinary departments or schools or faculties at a university, or by government working alone, or by universities or business working alone. They come from problem solving, taking a problem and then working through how it can actually be achieved. We've got so many problems right now that there's no shortage of things to do. Obviously, our most urgent challenge is to stop the pandemic, COVID-19, and this is one of those challenges that we need to face in a co-design and solution-oriented manner. Our governments obviously are not up to this, or most governments. My own has given up in the United States. We have no government leadership because unfortunately the president and his team are not competent to face a crisis like this. So we have 60,000 new cases yesterday, 1,000 new deaths, and an epidemic that's out of control. That's true in most of the world's large countries, not all of them. There has been progress in China, Japan, Korea, a few other countries where there has been notable containment of the epidemic. But for most of our governments, they're not up to this task. And so this is a kind of problem solving that needs to be done. Another example of complex problem solving that is absolutely essential is the climate crisis. Again, there is partly a deliberate misdirection on this crisis in the United States and some other fossil fuel energy countries. Political corruption from the oil and fossil fuel sector is so high that governments don't even want to pay attention to this. But the challenge, even aside from the political corruption, is very real. How do we move in a short period of time from a fossil fuel-based economy to a zero carbon economy? We know from the scientific evidence put forward by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that to achieve the Paris Climate Agreement objective of holding warming to below 1.5 degrees C, at least we have to decarbonize by the middle of this century. We have to reach zero greenhouse emissions by mid-century. Of course, we're wildly off track to do that. How many of our governments are even taking seriously that timeline? Unfortunately, very few. But the consequences for the world will be devastating if we keep on this current path. Just as with COVID, we were told time and again that pandemics were likely. Our governments ignored that. We're told time and again that climate change will be devastating. Our governments are ignoring that. But even those that aren't need solutions. For many, many years, I've been urging and working with groups on co-designing solutions to get to zero carbon. My main lesson from this is do that homework assignment. If I were a professor, I would give you a problem set. Here is your economy. How do you get to zero carbon in 2050 in a realistic way? This is a design exercise. It requires a pathway for technology, for economic policy, for behavior change that by 2050, 30 years from now, accomplishes a specific but crucially important goal. You would think that the fact that humanity depends on this goal would mean that you could go look up such pathways in a library filled with government reports on how this is going to be done. You would be sadly disappointed. There are very, very few such reports in the world by governments of how they will decarbonize by 2050. Because governments are not in the business generally of solving problems, they're in the business of keeping power. And this is a big difference. But we need problem solving. And problem solving is a matter of design. It's not a matter of academic research per se. It is not a matter of publishing a journal article. It is a matter of co-designing a pathway to a real solution that can work, that is financeable, that is acceptable, that makes sense. But first of all, it is a solution to a specific problem. Well, the SDGs and the Paris Climate Agreement and COVID give us enough homework to solve. We have to get to zero on greenhouse emissions by mid-century. We have to contain a dangerous and easily transmissible virus. We have to find a way to ensure that every person on this planet has access to education, SDG 3, SDG 4, or access to healthcare, SDG 3, are basic commitments, both as human rights and as the most basic sense for our societies to function properly. Now we have to figure out how to get education to 2 billion kids whose schools are not open right now because of the pandemic. Are we going to write off a generation? Of course not. But then we hear, I say, okay, go online if possible. And then immediately I'm told, well, so many kids don't have access online, which is true. How are we going to solve that? I'll be speaking in an hour to the telecoms industry in Asia, and I'm going to press them on one point. It's your job as telecoms to ensure access right now for every child, that they are part of school. They don't know it's their problem yet. They're not co-designing a solution yet. Their job, they think, is to make money with the telephone subscribers. But their job right now is to ensure access to digital information so that in the middle of a pandemic, we don't leave a whole generation of young people behind. All of this is to say that if we're really going to co-design solutions, we have to keep our eye rigorously on the targets. So the targets, just to remind you, fundamentally are education for all children, at least through completing upper secondary education by 2030. Health for all, not for some, not for those with money, but for all by 2030. Decarbonizing the world economy by 2050, if we're going to have even a modicum of safety. Sustainable land use and ending massive deforestation in the Amazon, the Congo Basin, the Indonesian archipelago, because we're destroying the habitats of the planet. Sustainable cities, SDG 11, for the 2 billion people that will be coming into cities in the next 25 years. And digital access for all, because we've entered the digital age. If it wasn't clear 3 months ago, it's perfectly obvious now. Without access to quality broadband, and especially soon 5G, it will not be possible to move forward in this world. That's a very practical challenge. So thanks to this group for meeting. I know that there are more 2,000 participants and people from all over the world. Let's solve these problems together. Radhika, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Really a perfect opening remarks from you, keeping an eye on the target. And we hope that our panelists who are joining in the first panel are keeping their eye on the target. And this is our lineup for panel number, round table number 1. And the idea here for this particular panel is to focus on policymakers and policies regarding SDGs. We'll start with EU Commissioner Virginia Sinkiewicz's video. Just to give a background on his work, he is the Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries for European Commission. Before this, he was the Minister of Economy and Innovation of Lithuania. He's responsible for the new biodiversity strategy for 2030, promoting plastic-free oceans, contributing to the Farm and Fork strategy, and has been an ocean conservationist for a long time. So really the right person to hear from. So I'll just switch on his video. He will be joining by, I'll share his video. I hope you all can see the video.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development is at the core of the work of the European Union. With its members, the European Union is fully committed to be a frontrunner in implementing the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. The European Green Deal, presented in December last year, is now also an integral part of the Commission strategy to fulfill this commitment. The Sustainable Development Goal 14, among others, guides my work as Commissioner responsible for environment, fisheries, and ocean. In recent years, the EU has overhauled the common fisheries policy with sustainability at its core. We have set robust rules to tackle marine litter, in particular plastics. We have made good progress on conserving and protecting over 10% of our coastal and marine waters. We can be proud of these successes domestically, but we must now fulfill our promises in international water. In these areas that are beyond the national jurisdiction of states, these remote areas contain a rich biodiversity that we have only just started discovering, and they need better protection. These areas are owned by no one, and they are shared by everyone. So, crucial for our lives, they are in a dire state. Nearly 70% of the ocean is under pressure due to climate change, pollution at sea and from land, as well as overexploitation of marine resources. Scientists say that we are approaching an unprecedented tipping point for the state of the ocean. We need to have the courage to listen to science and make game-changing decisions. It's time to act, and time to act now. In the coming months, I see three major opportunities that the European Union, together with the global community, can seize to improve the health and the sustainability of this shared global common. First, we can improve the protection of areas in the Southern Ocean. It would provide an opportunity to deliver on our promise under SDG 14 to conserve at least 10% of coastal and marine areas by 2020. That is why the EU has proposed to create two new marine protected areas, one in East Antarctica and another in the Weddell Sea. The Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources will discuss these proposals at its meeting in October this year. We must make it successful. Second, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fisheries continue to be a scourge for the ocean, in particular in the high seas. They are also a threat to the jobs that depend on oceans. The EU has a zero-tolerance approach to such fishing practices. We will continue to deploy all our policy tools, including international fora, to fight them. Within the World Trade Organization, we need to eliminate all subsidies to IUU fishing as part of the broader discussion to eliminate harmful subsidies. It will be crucial to conclude these WTO negotiations the soonest with the SDG 14 target in mind. Third, for more than a decade, a treaty has been in the making at the United Nations. It is known as the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, or BBNJ Treaty. And it also referred to as the High Seas Treaty. When adopted, this treaty will enable the global community to take collective action to conserve and sustainably use the high seas. The recent pandemic has shown how much our personal health depends on a healthy environment, including healthy oceans. We will spare no efforts to come to a successful outcome at the last intergovernmental conference taking place in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue to be guided by what we have agreed as a global community under the Agenda 2030 and its Sustainable Development Goals. We owe it to future generations. Thank you.
Really a perfect way of saying that the urgency is a lot. It is urgent, these matters are urgent, as well as listen to science. I think there are two main things that I got from EU Commissioner Virginia Sinke, which is a video. Going over to, I'll just share my screen again to my presentation so that we know the lineup. I'll go over to MEP Catherine Chebu's presentation. She will add a few words to EU Commissioner's presentation. Just a little bit about MEP Catherine Chebu. She is a journalist. And the best part is that she is a sailor who is the first woman to complete a round-the-world sailing race single-handedly, and that too non-stop. And she co-founded the Ocean and Climate Platform and launched the Common Good of Humanity. Since May 2019, she's been elected member of the European Parliament, and we are really honored to welcome this courageous lady, and really hope to gain a lot from her presentation. Over to you, Catherine Chebu.
Thank you very much, Radhika. Just be careful because your microphone, I think, we didn't really hear you, but I will begin. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning or good afternoon or good evening to everyone, because it seems that you come from everywhere around the world. I would like to warmly thank the organizers, University of Columbia, the Japanese MLIT, the NGO Sulitest, and also Mercator Ocean for giving me the opportunity to discuss topics that have been at the heart of my engagement for almost 20 years, that is ocean preservation, and more recently SDGs, and the notion of ocean as a global common of humanity. My first connection with the sea is a personal one. I am a former sailor and I practiced diving when I was young. The sticking memory of seeing so many plastics floating around on the ocean, even far away in the middle of the Atlantic or in the Southern Ocean, were constitutive moments of my engagement to protect our marine ecosystems. We only have one ocean connecting with our planet Earth. It provides us with an abundance of ecosystemic services such as for oxygen, food resources, or energy. It absorbs a quarter of GHG emissions and supports trade or tourism. The state of ocean and marine ecosystems, SDG 14, is representative of the global status of our entire environment. It is connected to all the other SDGs, and what some people think are only land-based issues such as agriculture. However, in truth, our ocean is greatly affected by all human activities, climate change and pollutions, plastic and pollutants, whether they happen on land or on sea. The good health of ocean and coastal ecosystems is a condition to maintain climate stability, SDG 13, but is also linked to SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, SDG 15, life on land, SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, etc. We are a few to promote the necessity of a cross-cutting scope, as it is shown on the illustration that comes from the French ministry. I don't know, Radhika, if you can show the picture I sent to you. It doesn't matter. The scoping, the presentation of all the SDGs, putting the SDG 14 inside, in the middle. I won't read the picture, so you won't see it. Just up on several interconnection. For me, the first path thank you very much. You can see the reality is that SDG 14 is interconnected with all the SDGs. The first path to promote an integrated environmental approach was to promote with other stakeholders, scientists, NGOs, institutions, private sector, the link between ocean and climate. So SDG 14 and 13. This 8th of June 2014, with the support of the IOC, the International Oceanographic Commission of Unesco, we created the Ocean and Climate Platform in Paris to bring together SDG 14 and 13 and ensure the ocean issues are integrated in the climate negotiations. Our goal was to speak for our ocean at international negotiations on climate when negotiators talked about the green lung of Earth and how forests must be protected. They always forgot blue carbon things, such as mangroves, marine herbs, and salt marshes. During the COP21, we won a battle. We obtained the inclusion of the word ocean in the Paris Agreement recital, and I invite you to visit the Ocean and Climate website and also Friends of Ocean Action, supported by the UN Special Envoy on the Ocean, Peter Thompson. So now I will speak as a member of the European Parliament, who has been trying to, for the last year, to preach for a more integrated approach on ocean issues. In the EU, despite having an integrated maritime policy from 2007, despite having our Commissioner Sinkevičius defending ocean interlinkage, ocean topics are still addressed in silos. I am active in 3 parliamentary committees, development, environment and fisheries, where ocean topics are scattered around. And I could also be a member of the transport committee, but I'm only a woman, a human, sorry. We need more cohesion between the fields and for institutions to coordinate their political actions. That's why I'm calling for an European ocean strategy in the Green Deal to bring together all those subjects. There is a first attempt in France, as President Emmanuel Macron just nominated a French minister of the sea at the beginning of the week. I am convinced that Europe needs to lead the way too, as it will also revive from ocean. So to answer your question, Radhika, decision makers often claim that SDGs should remain more than ever their top priority to face the many sustainable development challenges, but they don't really speak about their cutting scope. It's my feeling. And I'm convinced that with the COVID crisis, we have to promote this idea more than ever. Scientists have shown that sanitary crises are connected to climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and it has huge economic and social consequences. Faced with a systemic problem, we need a systemic answers. That's why we need to tackle all the challenges together. And my feeling is we always talk about the SDGs as a goal to reach, but we should use them as the backbone of our policies to facilitate an integrated approach. It's a universal approach used by all states, but also cities, private sectors as well. I realized that when I went last September to the Forum on SDGs with the European Parliament and was impressed by our meeting with Jeffrey Sachs and with the Columbian University. There is also another notion that we should invest on the global commons to push states, private sector, cities, citizens to understand their duty on ocean. We have to promote the notion of the ocean as a global common of humanity. I repeat, there is just one ocean, which is nobody's property, but belongs to humanity altogether. We all benefit from its services and are responsible of its good health. The appeal I have launched 2 years ago with other stakeholders calls to put the notion of responsibility above the notion of navigation liberty in ICES and sovereign rights on exclusive economic zones. States received those rights by the Convention of the Sea, by delegation, but it does not mean they are not responsible for the good health of the sea. With the Ocean as Common initiative, our goal is to have the mention of the ocean as a global common in the recital of the IC Future Treaty, and we need your support. To conclude and to complete my answers to your questions, Radhika, we don't only have to connect SDGs all together, we also have to connect people, farmers and fishermen, for example, and of course, to teach the SDGs as it is proposed by Sulitest. And congratulations for this initiative and fair win to it. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much, Hmpf, Kathleen, Shebo. This is really heartening to hear, as well as you really speak from passion and personal experience. So thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts. Now we'll go over to our next panelist, Mr. Jun Hayakawa. He is a senior officer for Wide Area Water Management, Kanto Regional Development Bureau, MLIT, Japan, and has a ton of experience. Is a engineer by training, but has been working in the field to do bioenvironmental conservation since many years. So we'll hear from Hayakawa-san. Over to you.
Sorry, can
Yes.
you hear me? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I cannot push the button of mute. Okay, so Excellencies, distinguished panelists, and so many participants, around 400 I can see. So it's a great honor to share the policy and practice to achieve SDGs tonight from Tokyo right now. And I'd like to explain how SDG 6, because I'm charged in water resources management for metropolitan area. Actually, I'm preparing the water for Tokyo Olympic Games, but postponed because of COVID-19. So instead of Olympics, I promote the hand washing by using water in really many reservoirs for metropolitan area. Anyway, so SDG 6 about water, especially integrated water resources management by River Basin Unit contributes all 70 goals, I think. So I'll introduce our policy and experience by presentation material. Okay, so first of all, let me introduce the history of the river law in Japan. So about 124 years ago, this law was established, and the purpose is just flood control. But after that, about 60 years ago, new purpose, water use management, was added, and we started the integrated river basin management system by one river, one plan, one management. And about 30 years ago, environment was added into the purposes of river law. So we improved this law, and so, please compare to the river law basic policy and SDGs. It's very close. We manage flood, water use, environment by river law, and SDGs solve very complex issues, problems of economy, society, and biosphere. So so that's why we achieved 94 degrees of integrated water resource management, I believe. And like many countries, we found many difficulties to practice. So now we are trying to strengthen the comprehensive river basin management with multi-stakeholder partnership. This management will improve not only the river, but also water storage or retention in the catchment area, but also sewage system, land use control, evacuation system in the floodplain. There are so many people in floodplain in Japan. So there are various countermeasures. That's why the multi-stakeholder partnership are necessary. So we are river manager, but we need to collaborate with local government or municipalities, with managers or farmers or many organizations or peoples. And before I talk about relationship between the comprehensive river basin management and SDGs, I'd like to show the figure, the network or interrelated networks of SDGs 17 goals like this. So, you know, on the left side, here are original icons of SDGs, you know, and on the right side, this figure made by Dr. Suwa, professor, Faculty of Education, Gakushuin University, Japan, shows each goal is connected to other goals. That means all goals are interrelated or interlinked. So when we see the goals from SDG 6 side that include the comprehensive river basin management, IWRM, SDG 6 contributes to other goals, directly or indirectly. This is a river basin approach we called, especially that will strengthen SDG 1. That means water-related disaster risk reduction. SDG 4, lifelong learning for environment and disaster prevention. SDG 11, integrated and sustainable human settlement planning, or goal 13, climate change adaptation, and 17, participation and collaboration of all stakeholders in one river basin. So in addition, we are now promoting green infrastructure too. So if we implement green infrastructure, we can strengthen these icons. For example, the biodiversity by creating wetland or ecological network together with integrated flood management. So this concept is very applicable for every country that has a river basin. So to conclude, all SDGs are interrelated or interlinked, and the river basin approach will contribute to other goals directly or indirectly. And then green infrastructure through river basin approach will strengthen the contribution of SDGs. These are river basin approach to all SDGs. Thank you. So back to Radhika.
Thank you. It's great to hear these really on-the-ground experiences. Hayakawa-san, so thanks for sharing your experience, and really a pleasure to have you here. Our next panelist is Mr. Pierre Baurel, and just a bit about his experience. He's the Director General, Mercator Ocean International. He coordinated the EU research and development project, which resulted in developing a community of 60 European public and private partners in around 28 countries that have been focusing on ocean-related analysis and research. And he's really a pioneer in this field, which is related to ocean research. So thank you, Pierre, for joining, and over to you for your intervention.
Thank you very much, Radhika, and hello to everyone, everywhere on the world. I'm very happy to be with you, and I want really to thank my panelists for the inspiring word that one mentioned. And special thanks to Sulitest and UNDESA for inviting me to explain what we are doing. We are preparing a Sulitest module for explaining what SDG 14 could do and what it is. It will be illustrated by a few words from me, and then Aurélien will continue, I'm sure. I'm coming from science. I'm leading an ocean forecasting center. We are forecasting the ocean. I would like to illustrate here how the societal responsibility of science and how we are progressively moving to a nexus where we have policy, business, and science together, thinking about the ocean, because as Catherine Chabot has clearly said, there is one ocean only, and we want really to share this knowledge. I will share my slides and give you some illustration of what I was saying. If everything goes well, you should see the screen now. My screen, I mean. So my point is to give you an illustration of how we integrate this SDG 14 into the practical life, and how we try to inspire youth and future decision makers about these challenges of the ocean and SDG 14. So Mercator Ocean International, we are an organization based in Europe, France, and we are an expert organization. We are forecasting the ocean, explaining on every day what is the situation of the ocean environment and what will be the situation in the coming weeks, or what are the trends for the past. We are working very closely with the European Union. We are interested by the EU to implement the European Marine Service, which means that we are working with colleagues with tens of different centers in Europe to gather all the information and prepare this and share this information to thousands of users everywhere. So I'm very proud to talk today about this EU vision of the expansion and of this knowledge, and more than that, the fact that everything we do is open, free, and that we work to share this knowledge very widely. We are fully connected to the different continents. Our users are on all continents, and we are working with Unesco, with the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of Unesco, to connect with the different ocean forecasting centers in the world, share practices, share data, and be sure that we are building together one single ocean. So one example of our scientific and technical background is the fact that our first movement was to build a digital ocean, to integrate everything we know about from the satellite, from the ships at sea, above, submarine, etc., from what science says about 3D modeling of the ocean, so that we can explain and depict the ocean in 3D with the blue component, I mean the physics, the currents, the wave, the sea level, the temperature, but also the white, explaining what is going on with the ice in Arctic or Antarctic, that was mentioned by our EU commissioner, but also the green, where we have all the connection with the living resources, I mean the biology, biogeochemistry, etc. And there is one, at the end of this, we have one consistent description, one single digital ocean, where we put the best of our knowledge. And what happens is that this is then it creates situations where we have the society at large coming to play with this digital data. Then we can say what is the trend of the ocean acidity, which is the SDG 14. We can see science or policymakers asking this digital ocean what is the situation, or what could be the situation if this or this happened. One illustration, and you have the logo of Copernicus in the middle. It means that this is typically the EU vision of this flagship program, which is called named Copernicus, is to simplify what is complex, this information, and to open freely to everyone this information, so that then start the knowledge, then start the dialogue between different communities from this ocean. So without Copernicus, the discussion would be very different. One illustration of this, in 1 minute, this digital ocean means that you can really play with this ocean and ask about the salinity, which is on the left upper panel of the screen, but also the ice, the wave, the temperature, the currents, the chlorophyll, and this is completely consistent. So talking about these SDGs that are interrelated, you can play with the climate, but the rivers, you can contribute to education, you can really process the evolution of the ocean acidity, you can explain what is the impact of illegal fisheries that were mentioned, etc. And this is what we do at Mercator Ocean International: process everything and share to everyone in the scope of this policy, business and science nexus. One illustration before to reach my conclusion is what we try to do to develop ocean literacy, to develop the awareness about the ocean challenges and reach the youth, the youth generation, but also the policymakers. The blue book that is on the screen is one illustration when we have society at large explaining what they are thinking about the ocean, why they need this knowledge to be shared, and to explain to the other communities what could be done together. This is all about policymakers, entrepreneurs. This is teachers, students, etc. This is an exercise that we done at Mercator Ocean International with the European Union and last year. The state report is the experts explaining what they know about the ocean environment today. You have the work we do with NGOs, and you have Thomas on the screen. He's 16-year-old. He has created his own NGO to educate his generation to the importance of the ocean, and we have examples of what could be done with museum to explain and to bring the ocean, this digital ocean, which facilitates the dialogue to the citizens. And this is why I'm very enthusiastic with the project we have with Sulitest. Frankly, this is something I'm very happy to talk about and to start. This is done with the UN DESA and with Sulitest to build a module to explain what is the SDG 14. And so we're starting this. So you have behind the screen, you have everything I have presented, which is the fact that this is not only this SDG 14, this is an entry door to this digital ocean where you can not only access to all this data, but you can also access to other people. Catherine Chabot was explaining that you have to connect the different components of the ocean, different data, but also the people. And believe me, as soon as you have one ocean which is accessible, and Professor Sachs pointed out that digital access is one objective. As soon as you open access, you simplify everything, and that these data are serious data, verified by the best scientists. Then something happens. So I'm looking forward to seeing this Sulitest model with about SDG 14 to reach policymakers, to go to the European Parliament with Catherine Chabot, but also to the young generation with Sulitest, and to see what happened on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Varel. I think this is really perfect because it completely is aligned with the EU Commissioner's idea of using science and believing in science. So you're actually implementing a science-based model. So that's fantastic to hear. We'll move to the next presentation with Mr. Aurélien Decamps, and he is the General Secretary Sulitest, is also an associate professor at Kedge Business School. And Sulitest is an NGO accredited by the ECOSOC and by UNEA, and develops online tools to raise awareness on sustainability literacy. I think this is really, really opportune that we have Aurélien Decamps to focus on sustainability literacy. This is really the need of the hour. So over to you, Aurélien.
Thank you very much, Radhika. I will just here share my screen so you can see what I will present. It is a real pleasure and a real honor to co-organize this session and to contribute to this discussion. My name is Aurélien Decamps, and I'm an associate professor at Kedge Business School in France. And as an academic, I've been working for several years now to integrate sustainability into higher education and beyond. And in that context, we co-founded an NGO called Sulitest. Sulitest today is an international movement spread in 45 countries. It started at Kedge in France, and now it is used in something like 45 countries. And the main goal of Sulitest is to provide free online tools to raise awareness on sustainability challenges and to improve the understanding of the global goals and their systemic approach. So just to give you a few words about Sulitest and where do we come from, and after that I will elaborate on what we are going to do together with Pierre and Mercator on the specific topic of ocean. Sulitest come from HESI, which is the Higher Education Sustainability Initiative, launched in 2012 at Rio+20. The HESI is a unique initiative bringing together different UN agencies and the higher education sector. And the main goal of HESI is to raise the voice of higher education and further education to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So several actions came from HESI, such as integrating sustainability into teaching, into research, how do we decarbonize university, green campuses, the role of ranking and ratings. But in this context of sustainability in higher education, there is a key question that Sulitest is trying to address. This question is, how do we make sure that current and future decision makers have enough sustainability awareness, enough sustainability literacy to take informed and effective decisions? At Sulitest, we are convinced that if we want to reach the 2030 agenda and to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to go beyond those of us who are probably here today, who are already convinced and committed to the Sustainable Development Goals. We have to reach out to the other ones. This is why our core mission at Sulitest is to build this collective sustainability literacy. Our mission statement is to achieve sustainability literacy for all. And this is why the first tool that we develop, which is our main tool, is a sustainability literacy test. The basic idea that we had is that we want to provide universities, but also organization, institution, or other organization with a simple tool that allows to raise awareness on sustainability and to check that your students, your staff, your stakeholder have this basic sustainability literacy, just to be able to be aware of the challenges and to connect the systemic perspective of the challenges to your own practices and your own job. So very quickly, how does it work? This test is an online test. It's a standardized test shared worldwide. It's an online multiple choice question format. And it consists of several different pieces, several different modules. We have an international core module addressing global challenges, available in 10 different languages and aligned with the SDGs. And we have a matrix of topics, ensuring that every time a session of the test is organized, we cover a systemic perspective of sustainability. So this is really the entry point and the first brick to build this collective sustainability-driven culture using Sulitest. In addition to that, and as the tool has spread, we have developed complementary resources. We have country-specific modules because we know that some of the SDG challenges are really relying on local contexts. And also we have started to develop SDG-specific modules with partnership with different UN agencies, because once you have the big picture, you are aware of the global perspective of sustainability. We want to push the learning further and focusing on specific SDGs. And finally, we have the initiative have been developed and has spread, and we have developed the ability to customize some dedicated resources to your own practices, and we have developed an ecosystem of complementary tools to develop gamification, for example, or to go a little bit further in the learning process and in the pedagogy. So it is important to say that this test is available online for free for any university or organization willing to raise awareness or to collect indicators about sustainability literacy or its evolution. As we move forward, Sulitest is today an international movement. As Radhika mentioned, it is coordinated by an NGO accredited by ECOSOC and UN Environmental Assembly. And we are developing an ecosystem of tools to push the learning of the SDGs further. So our main tool, of course, is that test that I just described. And complementary to this test, we have developed an ecosystem of tools. Some tools are developed by Sulitest, other tools are developed by partners, external partners and stakeholders with whom we are building a partnership. So as far as Sulitest is concerned, two interesting tools can be highlighted here. We have this test whose job is mainly to raise awareness and to map the evolution and the progress of SDG awareness. And we have a quiz, which is an interactive game more used as an icebreaker today, and also a pedagogical interface to conduct reverse pedagogy. The idea of this interface, which is called looping by Sulitest, is that taking a test with learning statement, as we currently have with the test, is a good way of raising awareness and of being aware of the challenges, but being able to co-create the good question, the relevant question that should be on this test is also a good pedagogical exercise and a good learning process to understand the SDGs and their multiple interlinkages. So this is what we have currently online, and we want to develop that. We always say that we are building the plane while flying, meaning that we have launched this movement and we welcome a partnership like the one we have with Mercator and UNDESA that I will mention just after that to grow this ecosystem and to work on Sulitest interdependence with other stakeholders. The main idea is to have an ecosystem allowing to go from I don't have a clear idea to I want to act. So we have tools to break the ice, we have tools to raise awareness, we have tools to learn about sustainability, and there are other complementary resources, such as the SDG Academy provided by SDSN or the UN SDG Learn, with whom we are partnering to go further on your learning process and better understand the SDGs. And you can also use different initiatives if you have learned about the SDGs and now you want to act. You want to act in your daily life or in your professional life. The ultimate goal, of course, is to trigger or to provoke this mindset shift that everyone wants to act to achieve the SDGs and the 2030 agenda. So very rapidly, where are we at the moment? The ecosystem of Sulitest tools are used in something like 45 countries. Almost 160,000 people have taken the test so far. So we have started to raise awareness and to build this collective sustainability literacy. And we have two main stakeholders in our movement. One is a senior advisory board, mainly with UN agencies and academic networks. This senior advisory board is in charge of validating the content and helping us to improve the tool over time. And as you can see on the map, we have also 27 regional or national expert committees, regional committees that are a network of stakeholders in a specific country, working to disseminate the tool in their own country, and also to create the country-specific modules. As the movement is accelerating, we have more and more people using the tool and more people and citizens taking the test, building this collective sustainability literacy. What is also interesting is that by doing that, we are creating and we are growing a first database mapping the evolution of sustainability literacy worldwide. So this is what we are doing also at the HLPF in the context of HESI. Sulitest is a contributor by producing a mapping every year at the HLPF of the evolution of sustainability awareness on the whole scope of the 17 SDGs. So this report is available online on our website. HESI has 2 events at the HLPF, which I encourage you to attend, of course. So do not hesitate to have a look at that and to have a detailed mapping of how the SDG awareness is evolving over time. And finally, what we are really interested and what we are really happy to launch today at this event is the fact that Sulitest is developing SDG-specific modules. We have already several modules online built with different UN agencies on SDG 7, SDG 12, or SDG 11. Some are currently under development. And as Pierre mentioned, we will launch a module specific to SDG 14 on ocean, together with UNDESA and Mercator. The basic objective of this module is to raise awareness on SDG 14 among current and future decision makers, to collect indicators on the evolution of SDG 14 awareness, and to analyze links and gaps between concepts, challenges, and knowledge, and their understanding by different audiences, such as students or policymakers. So I thank you very much for your attention. Do not hesitate to contact us if you want to join the movement. There are plenty of ways of joining the movement. Use the tool first. And if you're interested to contribute to these SDG 14 modules, you can reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aurelian. This is really innovative and really the need of the hour. So congratulations for coming up to, this, at least, where you have reached. I think it holds a lot of potential. And I hope to collaborate with you offline, and we'll continue our discussions soon. So now we are running a little bit behind schedule. We don't have a lot of time, but maybe one question that is very dear to me, I think, is this question by Monica. If maybe one of the panelists, maybe 1 or 2 panelists can answer this question. Monica asked this question on the Q&A box. Are there tools in place to bring equity and inclusion through diversity and raising awareness, accountability to our interconnected to the macro system, planet Earth, through education, incorporating formal and non-formal education to all stakeholders? So basically she's asking to how can we bring equity and inclusion through diversity and raising awareness about our planet Earth by doing more of the education through formal and non-formal education systems. So maybe 1 or 2 panelists, if they can focus more on this equity and inclusion angle, maybe for 5 minutes, maybe 2 panelists, since we don't have a lot of time and we are running late. Anyone wants to go first?
Well, if I may very quickly, as far as we are concerned, of course, this equity issue is really key in the Sustainable Development Agenda. I think what we are trying to achieve by building this collective knowledge base or culture of sustainability literacy is to have this systemic perspective of the SDGs. I think it's one of the major strengths of the SDGs to bring together the social aspect of sustainability with the environmental aspect. So this is really key for us and something that we push, that our algorithm, when organizing a test, you will never have a session with only environmental focus, but you will always have a balance between problem and solutions, and also between equity, social and societal aspects, and ecosystems.
Great, thank you so much. I think moving on to the other panelists, since we don't have a lot of time. Sorry, is Ms. Catherine Chebo wanted to say something? Yes.
Just want to repeat what I was saying to Monica.
It's not very clear. I think there is a lag. I'm not sure if everyone is hearing this. No. I'm sorry, there is a lot of echo. Maybe we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you in 1 second, and maybe you can go ahead first. Is that all right? Yeah, sorry, not very clear. It's not very clear. Maybe come back to you. Yeah. We'll come back to you in just a second. Maybe we'll go ahead with Mr. Bharwell first.
Oh, okay, okay. Catherine, it's very difficult to hear you. Can you hear me, Radhika?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay. Okay, so then I start, and maybe Catherine will be able to continue. I just want to say that this is a very, very serious issue for us. So we are consider very clearly the fact that everything we do, we remove all the barriers that could prevent someone to access to this information. So this can be the technical access. This could be a sort of cost. So everything is free, the technical, etc. And we explain the information, because the level of information that should be made available. So first we open a service where we treat everyone at the same level, so that we can really invite more people to this group. And also we are monitoring what is going on. We know exactly who's there, who is accessing this, and so we can act to rebalance and go toward the specific people, etc. And the last word is about the impact of the COVID, which in this case is positive, because then we learn to do what we do today, to have a live session, webinar, etc. And just give one indication. Before that, we had a workshop with 50 people. And last week we had a workshop with 700 people. It means that we can really invite more people everywhere in the world, different people from different. So this is really the society at large. So I think we are progressing well, but this must be an objective, and a very good question.
Thank you so much, dear. This is fantastic to hear your views on inclusion. We'll go over to our second panel. I hope I don't know if everyone can see. Just 1 second, I'll just share my screen. Yes. So our second panel is about practice. We've heard a great deal of policies. How do we influence the policymakers? Now let's hear from on the ground experiences and case studies, which focus more on the practice of integration of SDGs at the local level. So we'll ask Mr. Eddie Jorasaya to intervene first. He's the Director of Systems and Strategy of Water Resource Management at the Ministry of Public Works in Indonesia. And we'll ask him to say a few words about his experience. He has a ton of experience in conservation, water conservation and water management. So we'll ask him to do a presentation. And I'm really extremely sorry to our Indonesian colleagues. I know it's very late there. So thanks for sticking on, and next time probably we'll have you present first. So thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Jorasaya.
Thank you, Radhika. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for opportunities given to me to share the knowledge about the Basin approach to SDGs. In this occasion, please allow me to share about the directives and policies about Indonesia's water resources management plan approach to sustainable development goals. Indonesia is an archipelago with more than 17,000 islands located in the equator, populated by 260 million people on 1.9 million square kilometers. While the available water is quite large, around 4 billion cubic meters, the distribution is highly varied both in the spatial and temporal. The population distribution is also not well distributed, and with more than half of the population live in Java Island. This condition, added with climate variation and geological conditions, leads to more complex problem in managing water resources in Indonesia, aside from common problem of too little, too much, and too dirty. We use river basin approach in managing our water resource, where one river basin has one plan and one management. There are 128 river basins in Indonesia, with 54 of them is managed by central government, 52 by provincial, and 12 by regional government. Next. Although we try to have one plan and one management for river basins, which is mainly handled by Ministry of Public Works, there are many stakeholders and shareholders that are involved. From government side, such as Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, the private companies and communities. All of them deem to have the right to manage, consume, and exploit the available water resources, whether surface water, groundwater, and other related resources. The usage also varied from water for irrigation, drinking, energy, industry, etc. Without integrated water management, the degradation both in quantity and quality is inevitable. This is why we implement the integrated water resources management in our river basins. Next. The regulator of the water resources management in Indonesia, we have law number 17 of 2019 about water resources with the integrated water resources management concept as the main driving concept. The law has three main pillars and two supporting pillars. The main pillars are conservation, utilization, and control and mitigation of water hazard, supported by information system and empowerment and supervision. Each of these pillars have correlation with SDGs, whether strongly or indirectly. The water resources conservation pillar, main related to SDGs number 3, number 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. The water utilization pillars mainly related to SDGs number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 17. The water hazard control and mitigation strongly related to SDGs number 11, 13, 16, and 17. The water resources information system mainly connect to SDGs number 4, 6, 12, 16, and 17. While the empowerment and supervision related to the SDGs number 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, and 17. As a summary, we have integrated the SDGs in our river basin management with the water resources law and been trying our best to achieve the goals. Next. In these slides, we like to share the staging on the planning in water resources management for each of river basin in our countries. First, we create a strategic water resources management plan, which we call POLA. This document contains strategic plan that will be implemented in the range of 20 years. The making of this document involves all stakeholders and shareholders in the river basin, both from government and non-government association. The document usually has three scenarios of high, mid, and low economic projections to take into account the uncertain factor. The strategic plan then being expanded with more detailed plan in water resources master plan, which contain basic preparation for programs and activities, and as an input to regional spatial plan. The master plan has the programs in the river basin for 20 years also. The master plan then is detailed into feasibility study, in midterm plan, activity, and lastly, the detailed plan for implementation. Next. Regarding the flood resilience in the river basin and correlation with SDGs, we implement 4 stages, which are plan, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. These stages form a look back which the evaluation is influencing the future plan. The planning stage started with gathering the necessary data. A good data is required to construct a good plan. In this stage, there are already connections to several SDGs. The next phase is the planning itself. The implementation stage will step into the measure, including the construction or the non-construction measure. The construction implementation example is the building of floodway, dredging, and reservoir, while the non-construction measures such as community training. The monitoring step is commenced to ensure the quality of the implementations. The evaluation phase is done after the construction finished and the project starting to give the impact. The evaluation is used to improving the future plan, whether in the same basin or in another basin. Next. Regarding the drought resilience in the river basin, the correlation with SDGs we implement to approach with our mitigation and handling. The mitigation consists of collecting data, planning for what to do, and the implement could be done by the community-based training, while the handling part is done by constructing necessary infrastructure to overcome the drought by building reservoir, rain harvesting infrastructures, also groundwater wells. For temporary solution, it is possible to deliver water to the people with trucks or other measure in the drought area. Next. That's all that I want to share in this good opportunity. I hope that we can share and discuss further about these issues so we can improve the water resource management in our country and the SDGs can be achieved timely. Our comments and suggestions are welcome. Thank you. And I wish you all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johar Saya. It's very, very inspirational to see how you've linked all the SDGs with the work that you're doing on the ground. So very, very fascinating. And I hope there are more officials like you working on, such things all over the world. And I'm sure they'll get, more inspiration from your presentation today. Our next presenter is Dr. Andreas Hutahayan. He is the Deputy Director for Marine Conservation, Small Island Utilization, the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime and Investment Affairs, Indonesia, and has been working in this field for 17 years, both at the national and international level on marine conservation issues. He has a lot of experience on blue carbon and blue economy and is a pioneer in the field and is a negotiator of oceans at UNFCCC. So we have the right person in the panel today, and Andreas will explain more on his Indonesian experience. Yes, Andreas,
thank you, Radhika.
Can you just on the presentation for 10 minutes so that we have time for discussion?
Okay. Thank you, Radhika. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to share from here, if possible.
Do you want me to share the slides?
No, I can from here. Maybe it's better.
Yes.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for everyone from here. I would like to thank Radhika to give this opportunity. And now I would like to share some information regarding one of the priority of Indonesia government in the framework of combating marine debris. In this presentation, I would like to link not all of the SDGs, but I try to focus on 4 and 14 SDGs only. Although in the practical, all SDGs are related in this kind of issue. All of us we know that that waste or debris is actually a local issue. It's starting from our household, and now it's becoming a global problem, not only in Indonesia but also in many other countries in Europe or in US, or even though the marine debris is already exists in the deeper water, in the Arctic problem. On 2017, I think there was a SDGs 14 conference, and I found this is a quite important target. Is 14.1 is about the marine pollution, and in this report they mentioned that what plastic pollution in the ocean is about almost 52% of global pollutant. And I think it's a very important issue that global framework that we need a common enemy at the moment, which is plastic pollution. And back to here that in Indonesia experience, we have conducted some scientific data together with the World Bank and the LIPI. LIPI is Indonesian Institute of Science. We found that about 80% of leakage of waste come from the land, go to the sea, and 30% of the leakage is the plastic. So these numbers are, I think, give us very important data that we need to remanage our waste on land in order to reduce what is released in the ocean. So this is also not only occurred in Indonesia. Some study into 2017, they found that about 95% of marine plastic pollution or debris are coming from the 10 rivers. It contributes about maybe up to 4 million tons per year that coming only from 10 rivers, 8 in Asia and 2 in Africa. And these are, I think this is our concern here, that how we could able to manage our land waste management in land so that we could able to minimize the pollution, ocean pollution coming from the plastic. Apart from that, I think I would like to share you that our starting from that scientific evidence, we try to come with the problem, to solve the problem by first we have to establish our national law about combating marine debris. I think after work for about 2 years, we finally established the presidential decree in 2018. So with different of strategy, we have 5 strategies. But in this presentation, I would like to explain only the first and then the second. The first is about the behavioral change. This is more about how to educate, how to change the behavior of the people on land that they can better manage the waste by themselves. And then the second is reduce land-based leakage. This is what kind of the project on the field that has been done in Indonesia at the moment, and what is the result up to now. I would like to show. Basically, our commitment, that the Indonesia government commitment, is try to reduce the plastic, marine plastic debris by 70% in 2025. And also we try to reduce the waste using the 3R, reduce, reuse, recycle, up to 30% in 2025. This is the plan that we have already would like to show you. One example of our national program, we call it Citarum Harum. This is Citarum is the name of the river. Harum means is not smell good, something like that. So we want to have the Citarum River have a good smell, so people could able to come to the river and enjoy the what is the original of the river with the good environment. Citarum River Cleanup Project is located in all of the West Java, and it's have the long about 290 kilometers or more than that. I think you on the map you can see here how is the river from the southern part of the West Java go to the Java Sea in the northern part of Jakarta, and it's about 20 million people stay there, and very depending on this environment. And that's why we need to how to communicate with those people that we need to make something better for the environment. On the right side, you may see that how is the changes. I mean, in 2017, we see it's very, the river body is full of the debris, something like that. I don't know, I mean, maybe you can step on it. But after a few months that we are able to clean of the river body in this particular area. This is one example. And regarding our action about the change behavior, I think this is starting from school. I think it's from kindergarten as well, and then elementary school. You may see here on the left side below, this is the Boy Scout. Bring the plastic bag with some of the bottle plastic bag inside. This is some kind like the teacher asks the children to bring once a week to bring the plastic bottle that they use or from the environment nearby them to bring it to the school, and then the school collecting them and then using this as the material for the circular economy, something like that, to another West Bank, something like that. So this kind of teaching learning is try to educate the people, the children, how they're able to manage the waste starting from their own home in this area. And this is also another campaign that starting from the high level of people and I mean starting in the people from the junior high school here in the blue one, also try to educate how they could able to save our sea in the framework of the marine debris. So try to reduce the waste from the ocean using their own strategy, something like that. Besides that, this is another action from the field that this is how we could able to reduce the land-based leakage from the Citarum River. This is the Cisanti Lake in the upstream of the Citarum River. Now is the important way in this project. We also asked the military or army to help us to clean up the 290 kilometer of river. So this is one of the important contribution. I think since they have more power physically and facilities, so we would like them also ask them to help to clean up the ecosystem or river ecosystem in this particular area. You can see how is the changes from December to February. By 3 months, I think they are clean enough up to now. And now is many people are stay there for enjoy the environment. This is also what happened before that in the one area in nearby Bandung, in the center of West Java, how they clean the area before and after. And also we are doing the rehabilitation of the river, Citarum River Bank. This is how that so that the people can use the river bank for their activity. This is like a gym or children for playing, and then try to make a good garden in several points in the long of the river bank in this Citarum River. This is also one way of how we could able to rehabilitate the Citarum bank in river bank in this area. And beside that physical action, we also would like to introduce some of how the science and technology could give the intervention to manage the debris. This is just some activities that already working on it, and this is using the plastic tar root. So we use the plastic, collect the plastic debris, and then we use as the material for the tar root. And then secondly, waste to energy. Now is a big project in the 12 cities around Indonesia. And then plastic to fuel in the 2 cities. We already deploy of this, including some of them are in the river, Citarum River. And also we have a good collaboration for scientific development with the ocean cleanup to install this kind of good machine for prevent the marine debris going, the plastic debris going to the sea, something like that. So using this kind of instrument machine, we could able to collect the debris before they are entering the ocean. So this is our calculation. If we do not, we do have some study that if we do not have some intervention about the marine debris, I think below you can see that we will have more than double of the waste in our ocean, something like that. For instance, up to now, I think our debris or waste in general, Indonesia produced about 65 million ton of waste. So if there is, assuming some of them will released to the ocean, and then if we could not able to make some better intervention, then including the technology intervention, we could not able to reduce to fill in the target, which is reduce 70% of marine debris by 2025. So this is some calculation conducted by several institutions and together with the World Economic Forum institution. And this is what our achievement. I think before I was telling you that we have a 5 strategy. This is after 1 year, we do calculate what is the impact of the target. I mean, we try to reduce the 70% using the 5 strategies. So this is the current number until September 2019. Each strategy has have some quantitative what we call it result about how they could able to reduce the debris in this area in Indonesia particularly. I think Radhika, this is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
This is fantastic. I think you have done a marvelous job of doing a lot of interventions and behavior change related activities which are driven by common citizens. And I hope that all countries can do something similar. So thanks for that very inspiring presentation from your end. Now we'll go over to our next presenter who is actually coming from Ghana and has a ton of information for us, Mr. Kofi Agboga, and he is the director of Hmpf in Ghana, has a ton of experience in water resources, fisheries, coastal, and general environmental management, and is the chief of party for many USAID research projects in Ghana. So thank you, Kofi, for joining, and sorry for all the delay. I know we are slowly towards the end of the discussion, but last but not the least, we need to hear from you and get inspired. Please take over.
It's okay. Somebody must come at the last, so that's fine. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, and all the audience. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm speaking from Ghana, and I would like to share a few slides with all of us. Whew. So I'm doing this with the support from 2 professors from the universities whose names are here. What I would like us to discuss this afternoon is to look at the West African region and then understand how the rivers are behaving and how we work on them.
Kofi, sorry to interject. Now, we don't see your slides. Is it possible to share the slides from your end?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Click on the share screen button, the green button.
Sorry, share screen.
Yes, perfect.
You're ready to go. Just a second. Yeah. So in West Africa, we have very large rivers and we also have small rivers. So generally, what I'm showing you here now is the River Senegal Basin, the River Niger Basin, the Lake Chad Basin, and the Volta Basin. I would like to focus more on the Volta Basin and then zoom down to Ghana to see how the issues are playing out. The Volta Basin covers about 6 countries and it is managed by a commission or an authority. The major problems that we face in this area are land degradation, flooding, biodiversity loss, water quality, waterborne diseases, and coastal erosion. Now, waterborne diseases, if some of you may remember, the Volta Lake many years ago was the hub for the Simulium, which causes river blindness. And for that reason, it made large areas of the land in the basin uninhabitable because of these flies. But gradually, with the support of WHO and others, it was gotten over, and now there is devolution, and therefore countries are supposed to manage the basins themselves. The Volta Basin Authority has developed a charter for water management and also making a number of investments to do reforestation and community improvement and the others. All these are related to the SDGs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 17. Now coming down to Ghana, we have a national water policy which derives from the NEPAD partnerships for Africa and also Ghana's own poverty reduction strategies. And if you look at the Millennium Development Goals, we can now talk about Goal 6, where there is a heavy focus to ensure that water for all by the year 2030. Now, I would like to go on straight to how the Millennium Development Goals are playing out. I have to say that there is a very low level of awareness in this part of the world about this. Most of the time it's political talk. Our leaders go out, they go to the meetings, and when we come out, how do we transfer this kind of knowledge to local people on the ground? So the pictures I'm showing you now is the work done by the civil society coalition together with the UN communications group to bring the SDGs down to the level of people to understand. So with all that my colleagues have shown, I have to show this to you pictorially. So if you look right at the top left corner, that is Goal 1, poverty. Goal 3, well-being and health. Goal 4, education. So pictorially, when you present these like this, people are able to understand it rather than just showing those icons, which may not mean too much for our people who, again, I must say that because of the low education level, it is difficult to get a lot of these issues out. Now, looking at the Volta Basin, there are a number of issues that militate against the implementation of the SDGs, particularly Goal 6, Goal 14, and the others. If you look at the bottom half of the brown screen, one of the biggest issues that we encounter is the regulatory and administrative regimes, and for that matter, institutional weakness in implementing the SDGs relative to water supply in the basins. So if you look at Ghana here, we have a number of different basins and they all come with their problems. And if you put the problems together, what you see here is that it is the regulatory and the administrative regimes which is ranked the highest. And therefore, if this hurdle is not overcome, it will be very difficult to be able to handle other issues. Like my colleague from Indonesia said, all that they have done is driven by a strong institution that is working to achieve all these. Water pollution is a big issue, as well as improper land use. Now, the policy tries to look at issues of poverty, socioeconomic development, cooperation and partnership, as well as environment. And you find all these in the SDGs from 1 to 17. Now, the precursors to achieving some of these SDGs on our side of the world, such as improving water services, having a productive living, making girls stay in school as long as possible, reduce morbidity and mortality, as well as preventing waterborne diseases. All these are important. If you have not been able to achieve them, you will not be able to go ahead and then be managing the other issues that come subsequent to it. For instance, agriculture policy. Government is saying that planting for food and jobs. For that matter, they would like a lot of the youth to go into agriculture. In so doing, there is the fertilizer policy, but how much fertilizer must a farmer put under their crops? Invariably, most of the fertilizer is washed into the rivers and finally get their way into the sea. Some time past, if you look at the slide I have on the left, the second slide, this is the beach, which is blanketed by algae, which is coming from fertilizer. Until you are able to reduce the fertilizer entering the rivers, this phenomenon will be occurring. There is a mining policy which is allowing small-scale miners to dig anywhere and everywhere in the name of controlled mining, but invariably it ends up in the illegal mining and all our rivers become brown water, what I often refer to as a cup of Milo with a generous dose of milk. Again, our sanitation policy, how much plastics are going into the marine environment? What is the kind of systems we've put in place to ensure that all these plastics are removed? Fortunately for us now, government has come up with an education policy which is very forward-looking, and that for every child of a school-going age at the senior secondary level, education must be free. Now, when you do this for the next 20 years or so, a lot of the youth will become more and more literate, and therefore it will be easier to use them to implement policies that government will come up with. Putting a lot of burden on government because they hold the purse, they drive a lot of the issues that go on in the country. It is only when civil society comes in with funding from external sources that we are able to hold government in check on some of the issues that we're looking at. I have to say that, again, SDGs are very low, or the awareness for them is very low on this part of the world. And my suggestions are that, one, we should push for integrating them into long-term development planning. It has to be reflected in most government documents, and even at the local government level where the activities are happening on the ground. Everybody must be wary of the SDGs and see how they are implemented. Again, I say that they have to be mandatory, and then the implementing agencies must comply with the guidelines that are set forth. Budgetary allocations are very important, and also monitoring of the SDGs. If there are no budgets for this, M&E becomes something on paper. We have to practicalize it. The United Nations Development Program has an assessment tool that is used for assessing how well the local government agencies are doing on the ground. The SDGs have not come up as lively as they should in this document. And what I would like to suggest here is that all these things must be re-looked at and ensure that the SDGs are brought to the fore. SDGs must be a matter of concern to all of us. And again, it's not just going to be high-level political talk where the kid on the street or the young man implementing policies at the local government level is not aware of all these things. Again, I have to say that we should have started this discussion many days and years ago. It is now coming up, and we are asking government to show a lot of direction to ensure that the SDGs becomes something that is ingrained in the body politic and culture of our people. It has to manifest and be pervasive in our national life. The National Development Planning Commission must ensure that it is monitoring all these things. The local government agencies must have performance indices that are related to the SDGs so that we can monitor them either in agriculture, in education, in the school curriculum, at the workplace, and everywhere. In all this, civil society is called upon to play a very strong role in the monitoring. If civil society does not step up to the plate, then government will always have its way, and then things are never get done in the right way. So again, I'll end up by showing you all these pictures again, how civil society coalition is translating the SDGs in pictorial form so that people can understand it in their own way. As they say, pictures say a lot than words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Agboga. I think really pictures are saying a lot, and your presentation as well as the other two presenters in this panel have said that institution needs to be strong. So that's a common thread that has come across, and as well as civil society partnerships, I think is much needed for SDGs. Maybe just one question, since we are out of time, but one question from Adriana, and maybe any one of you can do also answer the question. It's about specific indicators to measure SDG awareness or SDG knowledge as well as practice. Anything that you can share on the monitoring and evaluation of these interventions, I think would be great. Maybe in just 2 minutes, maybe any one or two of you.
Yeah, Radhika.
Sure, Andreas.
Yeah, I think I would like to share a specific target regarding the marine debris. I think on the SDG target 14.1 is about marine pollution, and we are trying to link with our national target, which is reducing the marine debris by 70% in 2025. Of course, we need to calculate first how much the waste already we have, and then release to the ocean, something like that, by using the modulation. And then starting that, then we able to make some action, priority action, so that we could able to reduce by the time of every year. We have some what we call it calculation. How is the progress of each strategy in order to reduce the marine debris to fulfill our national target, then SDG target at the end, something like that. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you, Andreas. Very, very helpful. Thanks for all the suggestions, and thank you for all the panelists who have done a terrific job explaining their policy as well as practice-related work. I just want to thank Masahiko Morase. I think he's there. Maybe you can say hello, because he's really been the driving force behind getting the concept note done, as well as Cecil Thomas, as well as Benoit. We have been exchanging emails overnight and have been working really hard to put this together. So thank you for all the people who have put this panel together. Also thank you to Harris, Ellery, and Naira from the UNITAR group to bring this panel together. I hope everyone is feeling very inspired, getting a perspective from the commissioners, getting a perspective from practice leaders, getting a perspective from people who are officials who are working on these things together, to see how education and awareness can lead to all these changes. So thanks for everyone, especially the panelists who are there giving inspiring stories and inspiring sessions regarding SDG implementation and their intersectorality. And we will definitely put up, there have been a lot of questions, we'll put up all the details of all the panelists, including their presentations and the video from the EU Commissioner on the HLPF website, session 5. And definitely feel free to check this out and use the presentation, contact us. We are all approachable, and thanks for listening patiently to all the presentations. Thank you all.
Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you so much.
Selamat malam, Pak Edi.